Okay, hello and welcome to. I don't know which part of this is going to actually come through live, so I need to double check this because you're going to have the biggest troll you've ever seen. Okay, hello, welcome to Joshua J Poker. I will be Joshua J Poker for this, and in this video, I want to be talking about moving up in stakes, the bankroll management of doing so, the mindset behind that, and the mindset of actually moving up and playing your best and winning as much money as possible. So unfortunately, I was just actually talking for the last 12 minutes thinking that this was live, but it actually wasn't live. So I've kind of just done the first 12 minutes of this whole show and now realized that the stream wasn't actually live. So professional streamer, it is what it is. But thank you for joining me. And I can see there's some people waiting and watching. I've just had a practice run, which is pretty cool. So the preface of this video is that I stream on Twitch. And if you haven't watched me play poker on Twitch, you can find the details below in the description. And I moved up from 25 no limit to 50 no limit about a week ago, 8 days ago. And I did that on Twitch. And then I dropped back down stakes and then moved back up. And during that phase, there was a lot of questions on Twitch. There were people like asking a lot of different things in a sense of, like what's the bankroll management strategy? Do you notice any differences between the stakes? Like how are you like working through this? Like your mindset's good. And I was like, oh, this hasn't always been the case for me. Like moving up has always been difficult. And I see other people struggling with this. And I just thought I'd make a video to kind of like recap all of my thoughts and my fixes and how I've solved all of the problems to moving up, and then share some of that with you, with hopefully giving you, the inspiration, motivation, and the strategy to move up in stakes and start making more money. So apologies for the delay. Anybody that turned up at 8 o'clock, I do apologize. Pro streamer, not much I can do. So the first thing I want to talk about, and before we do that, actually, I just want to say that like I'm absolutely not the best poker player in the world. Everything you hear here is just something that I'm going through and something how I'm overcoming it. It may not be the purest, perfect answer because I'm not the oracle. So take from this what you will, take it with a pinch of salt. Go away and test some of this stuff and adapt it to you in your individual circumstance. And again, never stop listening to people that are better than you. And that doesn't have to just be me. So everything, I hope that makes sense. So firstly, let's talk about bankroll management. And this is going to be something that varies from person to person. And I've got some questions to help yourself figure out what bankroll management you should take for when moving up. So I'm using 20 buy-ins of the next stake. So for example, 50 and L, as soon as my bankroll got to $1,000, that's 20 buy-ins. I take 3 buy-in shot. If I drop back down to 850, then I drop back down to 25 and L. That's how I'm doing it. And that's how I'm going to do it at 100 and L and beyond. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want to get out of the rake trap. I don't want to be paying so much rake, and I want to move up stakes. I want to earn more money. I want to challenge myself and improve my game. And that's why I'm doing it in an aggressive manner. So that's just the way I'm doing it. And good questions to ask yourself, like, what are you trying to get out of poker? Because if you are trying to spin a roll up and you never want to deposit again, and you want to turn pro and you want to take this money and like, turn it into something really big, and you never want to deposit again, you have no means to, then you probably want to be a little bit more cautious with your shot taking strategy. You probably want to make till like 30, maybe 40 buy-ins. And again, if you're just recreationally playing and you want that deposit to last, don't take aggressive shots. Do with your money what makes you feel good. There is no strategy that's like perfect because it's going to be different for every single person. So you get to ask yourself that question, what is it that I want to do with this, and then adjust it accordingly. Another really good question is like, what is your risk tolerance? Because if you're naturally somebody that doesn't like to take risk, and if losing, say, 4 or 5 buy-ins is going to really cause your emotional state to become stressful, for you to not enjoy the game, you don't like taking that much risk, and it's like, and it's stressing you out, and then your bankroll's like going down. If you're that kind of person, become aware of that, like ask yourself those questions and then take the actions that make you feel good because you're that type of person. Like if you don't like risk, don't take risk. But if you like risk, then you can be more aggressive, and take more aggressive shots. And you need to find a threshold that works for you because there isn't a perfect answer, unfortunately. It's not 20 buy-ins or 50 buy-ins. It's very tailored to you. And for me, 20 buy-ins with a 3 buy-in stop loss is aggressive enough. It moves me out of the microstakes enough. And if I feel okay with losing that, that's where my thresholds lie. So they're good questions to ask yourself. And I really hope that's helpful because there is no perfect answer for bankroll management without having the context of those two questions. So that's the bankroll that I'm using. So now let's talk a little bit about the mindset problems I've faced when moving up, and I hope some of these will resonate. So when I moved up, I immediately noticed that my strategy was changing. I noticed that I was starting to think a little bit differently. I started to think like all of the other players were way better than me. And because they're way better than me, then they'd be aggressive. And you'd have seen me do this on stream where I was like a little bit, a little bit unsure in certain spots, and I was calling down a little bit wider, and I was like being a little bit more aggressive in certain spots. And that's because I thought everybody, was trying to exploit me, and I thought people were way better than me. And I really didn't know where that came from, but I became aware that it was happening, and I started to realize that it happens to loads of people. People putting hand histories in my Discord saying just moved up, and then like they completely changed their strategy. So if that's a problem you're dealing with, we're going to get to the solve in just a few minutes, but just know that that's one of the big problems that people face. So you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. So the second thing that I was really struggling with was the difference between the money side of things. Like if you lose 2 or 3 buy-ins at 25 now, it was like $75, but obviously at 50 now, it's now doubled. It's 150. And that was always in the back of my mind, especially in like quote unquote standard pre-flop spots. I was like taking the lower variance line. I was like being a little bit more protective of my money. And I kind of felt bad for doing that. So I felt bad because I was like, oh, I don't want to lose this money. And I started to really worry about like not so much busting my roll, but losing more money than I was comfortable with. And again, another common problem, and I'm going to talk about how to solve that. But if you're feeling that, um, please let me know in the comments, or if you're watching this on replay, um, you can still interact with the comments. I'll still catch up. So they're the two main problems that I was facing. Is change my strategy a lot, thinking that people were like really out to get me and like punish me and like make this hard. I thought the games were much harder than they were. And I was really struggling with the financial side of things, like seeing the actual numbers of the money going up and down, doubled rate. I was like, oh, okay, this is something that I need to deal with. And that's what this video is for. So if you have any other mindset problems that you are facing that aren't those two, because this is going to be very like personal for you, let me know in the comments and I can make more videos about those, because the more data I have, I can like help you through that. But they're the problems that I was facing. So let's talk about like the fixes of those. And this first fix, when I realized it, it was like honestly very liberating, and I hope it is for you too, was that I realized that nobody cares. Like literally not one person cares that you're moving up more than you do. To you, it's everything, and I'm talking here from my point of view as well. It's everything, isn't it? When you're moving up, you're doubling the stakes, like you're going to the next level, but only you care that much. Nobody else cares. And when you realize that and accept that as a truth, because it is true, it changes everything. And the reason that it's true, especially in the smaller fields, like I'm not talking about the super high stakes, I can't account for the big games because obviously I don't know so much what's happening in there, and the regs probably know when the regs are moving up. That's a little bit different, but I'm talking about the smaller stakes here, is that the pools are so big that nobody cares. And ask yourself, how many times in the 25 zoom, 50 zoom, whatever table you're playing, have you consciously thought, oh, this guy's moved up a stake, or this guy's moving up and now I do this new strategy. So once I realized that nobody really cares that you're moving up, it means that all of those problems that you create in your head don't exist. Because if nobody cares that you move up, that you're moving up, nobody's trying to exploit you. Nobody's trying to play more aggressive against just you. Nobody's trying to put you in spots, and nobody's trying to like, triple barrel you off a hand, and nobody's trying to do these things that your mind is telling you, because they don't care that you've moved up. They really just don't care. And when I started to realize that, I was just like, oh, this is cool, man. This is very liberating, because now I can play just my own game again. And once I started to realize that nobody cared, I realized that it's absolutely okay to take the lower variance line, because if nobody cares and they don't know that you're going to take like the more passive option in a spot where the variance is high, it's okay for you to just, take that option and reduce your variance. And what I mean by that is, if you're probably getting it in at maybe 52 to 60%, that sort of region, a coin flip territory, it's kind of okay to not take those, especially in cash games when nobody cares that you're moving up and nobody's trying to exploit you. Because if you want to, and this is for me, my risk tolerance is at that level. You know, I don't want to move up to 50 and L and just try and get coin 52% in pre like back to back and push a small advantage. Why would I do that? Like that doesn't feel good to me. If it feels good to you, do it, but it didn't feel good to me. And I was kind of hard on myself during my first shot at taking those, but when I realized nobody cared, it was okay again. So let me know in the chat if that's making sense, because it's really, really like a powerful fix if you realize nobody cares when you're moving up. About the buy-ins, you talk about 20 buy-ins, NL50, you take a shot with a 1K. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right, Rui. Yeah. Um, so nobody cares that you're moving up. And because nobody cares, it's okay to like take the lower variance, and it's okay to just stick to that strategy of trying to like increase your bankroll in that way. So the next kind of mindset fix that's really helped me is that um, understanding that the game doesn't change, you know, a winning strategy is more than likely going to be a winning strategy, because the game doesn't change, you know, and it's really easy for us to like overthink it and like start being like, oh, I need to know all this new strategy and I need to know all of these things. But the game doesn't change. You still get 2 whole cards, you still get 5 cards in the middle. It's still the flop turn river. You're still playing an opponent who has a range. It doesn't change, it only changes in your mind. And if you can keep it like on the straight and narrow and just ground yourself and just remember, you know, and what I've been doing is just breathing a lot more consciously during sessions to remind myself of like, this is just a game. You know, aces versus kings at 50 and L has the same equity as aces versus kings at 25 and L. And when you can drill that into your mind and understand that, it causes again you to not play this weirdo new strategy that you want to play because you've moved up. It causes you to not just make these really wide calls because people bluff loads at this new stake. You know, the game doesn't change. So that really helped me. And another thing that's really helped in that like kind of same regard is understanding that my job as a poker player is to earn the most money that I can. And when I move up, even if my win rate diminishes a little bit, so I might quote unquote win less, I actually earn more because the blinds are higher. So even though do you see what I mean? So, and that may seem obvious, but a lot of this may seem obvious, but you've got to remind yourself of this sort of stuff, because if you don't, then you go into fancy play syndrome. So when you're moving up, the blinds are higher, so your win rate can naturally reduce a little bit because the game's maybe a little bit tougher. You know, like the regs may be a little bit harder or a little bit better, or your strategy may not be that good, or etc. etc. But you know, if you just diminish your win rate a little bit, the stakes are higher, so you're actually earning more money. Which I was like, oh my god, like why didn't I ever think about it like that before? Why was I trying to like win at the exact same BBs per 100 as 25 and L at 50 and L? And if I didn't, I was really hard on myself. I was like, God, I'm not good enough for this stake. These regs are so good. People are bluffing me too much, all of that sort of shit. I was like, but that's ridiculous, Josh, because you're now earning more at this level. So do you see what I mean? And if you get hard on yourself in that sense of like you're not maintaining it, then you're never going to improve. And of course, you're going to beat two and L more than 50 and L. That's just natural because the games are easier. But if you don't lose sight of that you're going to be earning more even with a lower win rate, then it frees you up to just be a bit more relaxed into it, you know, be a bit more relaxed into the session and just keep playing a proven strategy and not trying to force the action to win the big blinds that you won in the previous level. And that really helped me is understanding that. And the final thing, and I really didn't think that this was going to be something that held me back, but it really did, is that I was subconsciously thinking that there's not going to be as many bad players at the next level, not as many like whales to harvest. And then in my mind, I was like, oh, well, if I'm just going to be battling regs all the time and these regs are really aggressive, and you'll kind of see how a lot of this is tied together, and it may be tied together for you because that's how our brains work, is that I didn't think that there was going to be bad players. I didn't think that there was going to be, you know, people worse than me. And because I thought that, it didn't really matter what happened. That's what I was looking for. But then I started to realize again, the fact of the matter is the higher the stakes, the bigger the whale. That just is the way it works. You know, like a whale at 40K and L is just going to be crazy. He's going to be just so wild. You're going to be able to win a lot from him. And if you look at poker, that's kind of how it works anyway. So you have to remind yourself often that it doesn't matter that you're moving up. There's still going to be players worse than you. There's still going to be whales worse than you. And if you stick to a strategy that works and you're patient and you don't fall into fancy play because you now know that all the other regs are just, they don't care about you, then you can start to play your best again. And that really, really, really helped me. And the final thing that really has really, cemented this in for me, that it's different this time at 50 and L, is that like I don't care about moving back down. I've let my ego die, and I did this on Twitch, and I spoke about this on Twitch because when I dropped back down to 50 and from 50 to 25, and the reasons I did that were because I took my shot. I didn't feel super great. I thought I wasn't playing my best. I had all of those problems that I just explained to you. I was like, "Oh man, how do I drop down on stream? Like, what will people think?" And obviously, it's a bit more ramped up if you're on stream. But even for you guys that don't stream, the ego is still a real thing, and it's still going to be like, "Well, you move down, you shit." That's going to be on some sort of level that could be happening to you. But remember that that's not true. That's just a weird thing that we make to like try and look after ourselves. So if you can let that go and just not even think about it, and if you need to move down because you're not playing your best, or you're not feeling good, or you're running pretty bad, or you lose a few things or whatever, you don't need anybody else's permission to move back down and still feel good about yourself. And when I realized that, I moved back down. I was like, hang on a minute. It's okay for me to go back down. And I went back down. I sharpened up my game. I really started to focus on playing really good rather than just like trying to win money at 25 and L. And I realized that's the solution anyway. And my game got so much better in the 3 days that I dropped back down to 25 and L. I was confident. My bankroll didn't even really change that much, but I was more confident. And I was like, oh, and I had also solved all of these problems that I just explained to you. I started to realize all of those things so that when I went back up to 50 and I was like, oh, here I am, let's go. Let's just play my best. Nobody's out to get me. Let's feel good. Let's be okay with like, the taking the lower variance options until we're more comfortable and our roll is a little bit bigger. And I just did those things and it's really, really helped me move up. And in the time since moving up, we've added like $600 to $800 to the bankroll. I feel really good. I know that like internally I'm ready for 50 NL now. And I just really hope that this will help you go away and take some notes from this, go and figure a few things out and try shot taking, because it feels good when you move up to the next level and realize it's exactly like the one before, just with a slightly different number on the top left hand side of the screen. And if you're playing big blinds, but like instead of the cash, it shouldn't feel any different if you use what I've just given you. And if it does, and if you do use what I've just given you, it's very liberating and you can stick to a solid strategy that got you to wanting to move up, and then you'll be able to crush. And that's what I really want for you guys. So just to recap, what we spoke about here is the bankroll management is to figure out what it is that you want from poker, and then figure out how much risk you can tolerate, because if you can't tolerate that much risk, don't take that much risk, and then adjust your strategy accordingly. The problems are, nobody people think that you're going to get exploited at the next level. People think that they're going to be way more aggressive, that it's going to be much tougher, that there's not going to be any whales, that you have to have a new strategy. This new fancy play syndrome comes back in. All of that is not real, because nobody cares that you're moving up. And if nobody cares that you're moving up, it's okay to take the lower variance lines. And if it's okay to take the lower variance lines, you can kind of like guide yourself through the new stake. And if you understand that and combine it with the fact that there's still going to be whales there, and it's absolutely okay to drop down if you need to, and you let your ego die in that regard, then what's stopping you from moving up, and what's stopping you from enjoying the process of moving up? Even if it doesn't go great, it's an absolutely unbelievably good thing that you've got to the point of thinking, oh, I could move up a stake. And even if you move up a stake and lose 3 buy-ins or 5 buy-ins, doesn't make you a bad person. And it doesn't mean that you can't beat that limit, because there's a lot of variance involved as well. But just think about that and pat yourself on the back like, I beat this limit. Let's move up to the next limit. That's a great thing. And that should be something you celebrate, not beat yourself up for dropping back down. Um, so we've been going for like 19 minutes. I hope you found value in this video. If you have, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to read about them. And if you think this is valuable, please share it with somebody that you think would get value from it. And if there's any other videos like mindset related that you'd like to see from me, please let me know, because I prefer you to tell me what to make and then I'll just make it. It's a lot easier than just trying to figure out what it is that you guys want. So without further ado, I've been Joshua J, and this has been Joshua J Poker, and this is my take on how to move up and shot take efficiently and move up to the next stake. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.